Oh, somebody's got their hand up. What the hell are you doing there, Eric?
Call on me. Call on me. All right, Eric, what do you want?
What the hell are you doing there, Eric?
All right, guys, welcome to Permaculture Smackdown. Today, I want to talk about something Paul does not want to talk about, and so we're going to do what I want because it's my show, sucker. We're going to talk about
Fuck that noise.
we're going to talk about tariffs, the recent Trump tariffs on food imports, and how that affects permaculture in different views. But I feel like the direction of the conversation is going to go elsewhere because Paul was like, I'll do it under two conditions. One, you watch this documentary and don't fall asleep. And two is you read this article. And so I did both and I did not fall asleep. And we're going to talk all about that stuff. But first, you were just talking about some Hugel culture stuff and you were showing off your Hugels. I want to see them. They're huge.
Hey, you want to see my Hugels? Huh? Hey, baby, you want to see my Hugel culture? Huh?
Oh, man. Now I don't.
All right. So a couple things. We built these lovely 12-foot tall Hugel culture beds in front of the house, and they're really narrow because this is at base camp, and base camp is like a big rock. The lab has got 40-foot deep subsoils, but base camp is just a big old rock. And if you want to have gardens, it's like, man, there's virtually no garden space. At the same time, there's a little road right there, and it's like, how do I delete that road so I can have a more peaceful existence? And then on top of that, if I want to go out and, water the garden, if you know what I mean. Water the garden.
Like pee all over your food?
Yeah. That. It's like it's a little awkward when a car goes by.
It's not awkward when you're eating it. It's awkward when the car goes by.
Well, the other thing is like I don't think it's good to just pee right on plants.
Yeah.
What you want to do, it's like if you've got a plant right here, what you want to do is to pick a spot that's near the plant and then hit the soil right there. Uh-huh. Don't go all around the plant. Just give it a spot. If it wants it, it can have it. If it doesn't want it, it can, choose to clear out of that space.
And don't continuously hit that same space every time.
That's true. Move it around. Between
gotta spread the pee.
You got to move it around. Yeah.
And those are not pot plants in that picture, right? Because they kind of look like pot plants.
Oh, yeah. It's a flower. It's some kind of flower that Jocelyn planted. But you can also see just behind that, you can see like over here, this is asparagus that is dodging this log. So this is
going for it.
In a previous Smackdown, we talked about getting these logs up here. So there's this log, and then there's this log. And then this horizontal log is going to get moved to go from about here to over to about here. So that way you can stand on that log. And then we're going to kind of fill out the organic matter up to the logs, but then we'll be able to, we call this scaffolding, or for a while we were calling it the siege ladder system. But then we kind of had like actual little ladders that we were going to move around. But now we want a permanent thing because I've got way too many logs. I got oodles of logs all over my property.
It looks like you're building like a car barrier or something so cars don't hit your Hugel.
Well,
what's going on?
The idea is that we put these stumps here, not stumps, but blocks of wood here in order to be able to set this log on it while we kind of carve up the end of the log and carve up where it's going to meet over here. So we do a little roundwood timber framing kind of stuff and then plop it into place. And so here you can kind of see the wedge that we put in to keep the log from rolling off.
Yeah.
And then here I'm starting to, here's that plant you were eyeballing. But anyway, I'm starting to carve into the log a little bit, and you can kind of see the notch that I made. So earlier today, I was out there working on the log part.
I like how the sawdust from the carving of the log on that plant looks like THC on a pot plant.
What?
Doesn't look like a pot plant exactly though. No.
Yeah. But I think another big thing is that the first year we were here, the deer and the turkeys just wiped out everything that grew on the berm. And the second year it was rabbits and chipmunks.
That's great.
Third,
So now you got rabbits, chipmunks, deer, and turkey to eat.
food.
Yeah, your garden's doing its thing. It's bringing in the meat.
Well, the important thing is that last winter, Jocelyn fell in. There's a feral cat in the area, and Jocelyn kind of enticed it in, and now Jocelyn and that cat are in love.
And no more chipmunks or squirrels or.
And now there's no problems. So suddenly the whole thing is just pumping out greenery, and so we've got some stuff that's going there. I mean, I'm sure when you were here a couple weeks ago, you saw the rhubarb on the end. It probably tried to grab you and wrestle you to the ground and eat you.
What I was thinking is, where are the strawberries? I'm going to make a pie.
We've got some strawberries going. I mean, the whole property is covered with wild strawberries, but we've got some that we planted too. But anyway, this year, in fact, we went out a couple of times this year so far and did a bunch of chop and drop. And we've got certain species of grass that I planted a few years ago that's doing really good right now on some of the berms, just huge stalks. And there's some Sepulchre's grain that escaped out there that's like, which should in theory grow to be 8.5 feet tall. That's putting a lot of organic matter into the soil. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff that's growing in there now, but there's a lot of stuff that it's like, okay, that's going to have to go eventually. But we're gonna get this scaffolding built up there because it's such a steep berm. So we wanted it to be tall so we could delete the road, and at the same time we didn't have a lot of horizontal real estate, and so it's like, so it had to be steep. There was no other way to do it. And when you make a berm or hugelkultur this big, usually you make it extremely wide at the base so you can have trails that you can add in the middle. But it's way too narrow for that. So we're going to add these logs as scaffolding. So there's that project that's going on. I wonder if anybody, looks like our people don't have any questions about it. So I'm going to move on.
We got a question about the pea. That's what they're interested in. Timothy says, what about diluting pea first and then spreading it more evenly?
That sounds like more work.
You could when you pee,
you could
spit where you peed.
All right. I think a lot of people, that's what they do, is they dilute the pee 10-1, and then they just use it as a regular fertilizer. And that does work and everything, but it's like, I don't know. I don't feel like going to a watering can and sticking my dick in it. I just feel like I don't want to get that intimate with the watering can for some reason. Whereas if you just go outside and hit a spot, that seems good. And if you just don't pee on the plants, just pee on the soil next to a plant, and don't pee all around the plant. Just hit a spot. And then basically if stuff likes it, then it takes it up. And if it's too much, then, it still has all of its other root systems that are like unaffected.
I wonder if anybody's experimented with vermibins, with like worm bins and peeing on those. It's like, I wonder what kind of effect that would have, because they're already pushing out quite a bit of nitrogen when they're making their stuff. And I don't know what the effect is on worms with urine, but I know that they like breed worms to be tolerant to all kinds of shit. Like they breed worms to eat fucking plastic. And so maybe they could do it for pee, and then you could just set up your worm pee trough, and that's where you go pee, and then you collect the juice and put that on your plants.
I think the only concern with with those worms, red wigglers, is going to be like there is some salt in your urine, and they're not going to like that salt. And I think a big thing too is that once it rains, you kind of get a reset button, and you can go start peeing wherever you want again. But I do kind of think that a big thing, like if you look at this picture, a big thing is that it's like there's a lot of growth so far this year in this hugelkultur bed, which means it's going to be making a lot of awesome soil. And there's a lot of stuff that's about to happen here. And the chop and drop is going to do a lot, but we're going to get a lot of organic matter. So next year is going to be a big year for garden. But now that spot too is also currently not in a paddock. So this particular area is currently exposed to deer and turkeys. So there's a decent chance that everything in here could get obliterated still. And that's the paddock that we're currently building, is to try and enclose this particular area. Cool. So,
all the massive fencing that you're putting up.
Yeah, the fencing for the paddock. Yeah. And I mean, the schmoozeroo is going on right now. We've got another person showing up tomorrow for it, I think.
Are people schmoozing?
In fact, Julia is coming. I think she's coming tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
So I'm not seeing her name on the list of people that are watching right now. The Peasant PDC is currently underway, and the students of the Peasant PDC humbly request that we do less junk pole fence.
We're sick of it.
I think I heard something like they've done it. So each day for the Peasant PDC, it's half a day is classroom time and half a day is project time. And they've had 10 days of projects so far. And my understanding is that there have been 3 days of junk pole fence. And the part that they don't like is the part where you go out into the forest and get the trees. And it's like, you do that for a day and you're kind of like, and now I've done all I want to do of that. But apparently a lot is happening at Allerton Abbey. I'm going to be going up there immediately after the Smackdown to go have a look. And see
are you allowed?
Oh, I am allowed. The only time I wasn't allowed is when apparently it got so junky that Jocelyn implored me, please don't go look. I'm going to get it all cleaned up.
Yeah.
You don't need to see it in the state that it's in now. And so, but, and we were talking in that last podcast about how important it is to have people who clean above and beyond the clean people. Like that's just such a critical component.
Either Eric just farted or he just owned up to messing up Allerton Abbey because he says sorry.
Oh, that's when he was talking about sorry because he had his hand up.
Oh,
that's part of the thing. I said, "What's your hand up for?" And he's, "Oh, sorry."
Okay.
Way to nail him for something that he didn't do.
I was like, why would he say sorry? That's so weird. All right. Hey, I'm going to take over your screen share because it's my turn.
Oh, I wanted to get onto the article.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
But one thing is,
wait, let me do. I don't want to do
this. We have a thread out at Permies about the Broken Limbs movie, and it's got the full movie embedded for free.
Yep, I watched it.
We've got that. Okay. And then I've got my whole article about how to get permaculture apples into Safeway. And so these are my big response. But before we go to those things, so you got a thing you want to do. You want me to stop sharing?
Well, we can do it two ways. We can read your article and then respond with this tariff thing, or we can talk about the tariff thing and respond to that with your article. Which would you prefer?
I do not want to talk about your stupid fucking tariff thing.
I'm thinking the tariff thing is going to be very short, and then we're going to get right into your response.
So yesterday we were talking what are we talking? I said, what are we talking about the Smackdown tomorrow?
And I was like, Trump's tariffs.
And I'm like,
fuck you.
I have no interest.
Yeah.
No interest. and so then basically, okay, go.
I was like, I don't think you understand the effects it's gonna have, man. And you're kind of like, I don't read this shit. I'm like, I don't care about this horrible person and what he's doing. All right. My stance is that I see these tariffs coming in. Now, I'm an anarchist, so I don't like government. But if we're gonna continue down this path of having tyranny in our lives, then it'd be nicer. That's why this whole local thing is so important. And like buy local, help support your local farmer, things like that. One big thing that is a huge problem in this world is our I always forget the damn word, Paul. It's your fault. The subsidies on products like wheat, corn, and soy, which is why our farmers grow primarily like 90% of our crops are wheat, corn, and soy. And then we export them to other countries where that just kills their farmers because now they can't compete with all this crap, or they grow food that we will import. So we're importing all this food. So it just puts it a scenario where all we do in America is farm corn, wheat, and soy, and nobody's growing food anymore and like varieties of crops and things. And so now Trump comes along. I'm sure this is not the reason he's doing it, but the effect is, and or there is a positive effect for us, I think. In he says, we are. It's all about trade or some, whatever his excuse is. But what I'm going to do is put these tariffs on food imports on in. Okay, so now it's going to cost more money to bring in foods, and all of a sudden the stocks like go. Nabisco's going, oh shit, and stocks are going down in all these food companies because oh shit, we're going to have to pay more for our products that we're importing. But the effects of this could be that farmers are going, oh shit, the prices of import or food is so high, like on apples, for example, or whatever, that I'm going to start growing that because it's going to make more money than these fucking corn, and it's going to this corn, wheat, and soy line that I've been doing, and it's going to be better for my soil. So that encourages that. And because prices are so high, people are going to start looking for local produce more often, which would be like the permaculture folks that are growing food on their own. And I read your article and I watched the video. Your article had some great points. The video, I didn't. I was like, it's nothing new that I didn't know. It didn't. There was nothing super shocking about it in there for me. Julia, when are you coming?
Phrasing.
So that's my view. Is that okay? These tariffs could do a good thing for America, in that we'll slow down on this corn, wheat, and soy bullshit. Or I hope that is what happens. Now, the reason we're subsidizing corn, at least, is for ethanol, oil production. So if that goes down, oil prices go up, sure. But that would be a great thing. I think I don't see a problem with oil prices going up. All right. So your rebuttal?
I kind of feel like the big thing. I mean, first of all, Trump's a dumb fuck, and now apparently he's a Russian stooge. And so I mean, it seems like the evidence is profound that he fucked the election. But I mean, like, I kind of feel like, okay, so like, let's suppose Hillary won, then okay, it would just be a different flavor of evil, but probably authentically a bit more sinister, but probably also not going to fuck us as much as Trump's going to fuck us.
I feel like Hillary would be more war. Well, I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, fuck.
Terrible. I feel like they're both equally terrible people.
I feel like they're probably equally terrible. At the same time, I kind of feel like Hillary is going to at least pretend to be a decent person, whereas Trump is totally, and it's like, it's such a clusterfuck. And all right, so now we're going to talk about tariffs and shit. And the thing that you presented to me yesterday is like, well, this is going to be good for permaculture because, suddenly growing your own looks a hell of a lot better. And it's kind of like, Trump keeps doing all kinds of stupid shit. And I'm really, it's like, in fact, here's the thing that somebody made a meme of me saying this. And I think that this is so, politics is a circus made dominantly of scary clowns whose primary function is to distract you from what's really going on.
That's fair.
So if this is the distraction, what's really going on? And then if you're reacting to the distraction, you're not paying attention to what's really going on.
Or the distraction is something else, and this is what's really going on. I mean, he's doing a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit going on. And if he does something right or something that has a positive effect, I'm going to mention it. Just like I'm going to mention it if he does something negative
All right.
that has a bad effect.
All right. So the thing I said is like, okay, if you want to talk about the tariffs and shit, because basically the Broken Limbs movie, that's what it goes into. The first half of the movie is like, we're all fucked. Yeah. We're fucked. Because here we are in the United States. We're growing these apples for as cheap as we possibly can. The orchard growers are all getting fucked to the nines. They're going bankrupt left and right. And we're taking what apples are left and we're paying peanuts for them. And we can't compete on the global market because these people in China are like, they get their apple onto the boat for like a fraction of the cost. And then all you can do is pay for getting it over here on the boat. And it's like, we can't compete. And we're dying here. And so then all these orchards are shriveling up and blowing away. And I'm kind of thinking like, okay, now you go down to Safeway and it's like, the funny thing is you go down to Safeway and the cost of bananas is less than apples.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, but the apples are coming from just 200 miles away, and the bananas are obviously coming from at least 3,000 miles away.
But also, bananas grow year round where they come from. There's a lot more of them.
Okay, all right.
There's reasons, but but you're right. It's like 1,000 miles away versus 200 or whatever. It's a big. You'd think that the apples would cost more than bananas, or the bananas would cost more.
All right, and so then the next thing is the thing that there's the meme that I once said during a podcast. Somebody made it into a meme, and then it's like this meme about something I said gets more attention than all the others combined. And basically, it's if you take away the Chem Ag subsidy and the organic ag penalty, the consumer will learn that Chem Ag food costs 4 times more than organic. And so that all said, it's kind of like, all right. The first half of that movie was about like, we just can't figure out a way to make it work. Everybody is going broke on our end. We're all suffering. It's not happening. And then they get into the second half of the movie. And in the second half of the movie, you got people that like take their apples directly to the consumers at the farmer's market. And then they make a lot more money rather than selling the apples for something like 20 cents a pound to these big, middlemen, these big warehouses. They sell them directly to the consumers. And now they're getting, like $1 a pound. They're getting a lot more money. So that starts off, I think the big turnaround is that there was a couple and they had some acreage for an orchard. And they were in debt up to their eyeballs. And like they had the property for 10 years, but they just got more and more in debt with each passing year. And then they had a hailstorm. It just obliterated their crop. And they're like, well, that's it. We're fucked. We lost the farm. So as a Hail Mary, they put a bunch of apples into their truck and they went to Seattle and they sold them as at a low price because they got hit by hail. And they, the idea was sell them quick before they get any browner. And they sold them all real fast. Poof, they're gone. And then they figured out that by traveling this path, that they actually ended up with more money in their pocket than if they had sold to the big warehouses. And so it's like, holy shit, we're still alive. We're going to make it. We're going to be okay. And then they, went down another path. They started selling them through the internet, selling apples through the internet. And there were a couple of other stories of successes, but the best one, of course, was the last one where, you start the movie off and it's like, well, people don't want red delicious apples anymore. So what they were doing is that they were grafting other varieties onto the red delicious rootstock. So that way they could keep it going, or they were like just bulldozing all the red delicious orchards. and replacing them with something that was considered marketable. But it was still, monocrops and shit like that. And they've got a hell of an operation. They spray 5 times a year, have to irrigate. They've got their processes that they use to pull it all off. And so then at the end of the movie, there's basically this guy, and he's like, he's doing permaculture is what he's doing. And it's kind of like, okay, I got like 3 apple trees. I don't do anything with them. When the apples come on, I put them in boxes and I take them to town and sell them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's his whole story, as opposed to the big operations we just saw. So then it talks about how he took his boxes of apples into the store to sell them, where he always sold them. And it was always, they had some kind of deal like $28 a box or something. And he got there and the store said, like, oh, I'm so sorry, but we just can't pay $28 a box anymore. We struggled. So we could do like 23.
Yeah.
And the guy said something like, he's like, well, fuck it. I'll just feed them to my pigs. And they're like, and then they're like, wait. Turns out we could totally pay $28 a box.
Yeah.
We were just fucking with you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so they paid the $20 a box. So then, all right. So that's the movie Broken Limbs, a great movie, an excellent movie. I suggest everybody see it. And apparently right now it's available for free. Check out that thread at Permies. Then it was 2 years ago. We had a PDC here, and there is a guy. I'm giving the tour, and we've got an apple tree that has been destroyed. I think it got infested with small boys. I mean, it was only like about 2.5 feet tall. We put posts around it to protect it so people would know, but it got trampled. And so it got broken. And we've been watching this here to see if it comes back, and it's not going to make it. But when it was all of 6 inches tall, then we had the stakes around it, like there's an apple tree here, please be careful. And there was a guy on the tour that was part of the class for the PDC, and he said, okay, like, what do we do to get permaculture apples into Safeway? So I wrote this response. I mean, I tried to give him a quick response, but we're in the middle of the tour, and I've got so much to say on it. And after the tour was over, I came and I wrote this. And so you read that. And my response is multifaceted. And part of it is like, okay, we could totally play that game. It's a shitty game. It's a dumb game. Instead of playing that game, what if we instead play a game where we can get more money for the apples? Kind of like, there's the Broken Limbs angle on it. And then the next thing is kind of like, there's so many better games to play, because part of it is like, even that guy in the Broken Limbs movie, he put those apples in the boxes and then he drove them to town. And it's still kind of like a little bit like, I think we could do better than that, right? I think there's still things we could do better. And so anyway, I tried to come up with like a long list. So it's like, no, we can play that game. But I think the function of my article is to say, why play that game? Don't bother playing that game. It's a rigged playing field, and you can do way better and I also talk about the idea of like girding it. And so I think that's the final solution is like, if you're girding it, then you really don't need the fucking money. And now who cares? And a little bit of money comes in once in a while, and it's more than you ever need. So
the permaculture millionaire is $10,000 a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I liked my favorite part of the article was that, and the community side, where you're saying, oh, well, why don't you be in a community? Of course, I'm all about the community. I know others aren't. But it doesn't have to be community. It could be a community, not an intentional community, but it could be a community of neighbors, things like that. But the idea of like, what if you had your neighbors are all growing all kinds of stuff. You each agree to focus on three things, and then there's a stand, a neighborhood stand. Everybody brings their produce to that stand every day, and that's the neighborhood stand that sells all the produce. Things like that. We're starting to see it with bigger agriculture, where there's a thing called Hub Camp I went to in San Diego, and basically this lady owns this company. She made the software program for food hubs. And so the idea being that anybody, whether you're a big time farmer or a small little guy, can bring their produce to the food hub. And you're only bringing in the produce that's ordered. And the people that are ordering are like restaurants, grocery stores, things like that. So they see what everybody grows. They put in their request, like, I need 1,000 apples or 1,000 pounds of apples for next year or whatever. And then it automatically it says, okay, this farmer can produce 10 pounds of apples a year. This farmer can produce 100. It matches it all up and says, here's your apples, or whatever the produce is. So there's another way, a thing that's happening, which technology is doing great things for us. That's great to have happen. But I do think the ultimate solution, or the best solution, is either neighborhood community or intentional community grouping up together and doing it, and doing a food stand.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about local, getting your food that's local within 100 miles. I prefer hyper local, which is going to be like within a half a mile.
And you can grow most things you want. There are things that you want that you can't grow, especially in Montana. Like, it's really hard to grow an apple in Montana, or I mean a banana in Montana. If you want a banana, you're going to be importing that sucker.
I for a while I had a BBS called the Montana Banana BBS.
Oh yeah.
Just FYI, as long as you're talking about bananas in Montana, it just kind of came up.
What is BBS? Big bullshit. What is BBS?
Bulletin board system. It's kind of like the internet before the internet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know bulletin boards. I just never heard them referred to as BBS.
Oh, okay.
I hate bananas. Good input, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. That's so helpful.
But it's good for you, man. You don't have to import bananas. Yay.
Jeff, I just want to make it clear, bananas hate you too.
Your body would probably like a banana.
Awkward. He says thanks. All right. I guess I want to go through the stuff about GERTnet and stuff like that. I kind of feel like that's the so
what the hell are you talking about when you say GERT? For those that haven't watched the previous episode where we went all into GERT.
Okay. So GERTnet, from my article, are there currently millions of permaculture millionaires? And the idea is that so Gert has realized the permaculture dream. She's got herself a little home. She has a magnificent garden.
Let's stop sharing the screen if you don't mind. Unless you have more stuff.
Oh no, that's fine.
Cool.
All right. So then the thing is that rather than going and working 40 hours a week and spending 5 hours a week on her commute and 10 hours a week driving around to get her food stuff, Gert basically spends about 10 hours a week cooking for herself and harvesting her own food. And then, of course, when fall rolls around, she's probably spending 40 hours a week putting her food up. And, she might be doing that for a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So overall, Gert is working far less than somebody with a 40-hour-a-week job. And at the same time, our example, the 40-hour-a-week job, that guy, I think the example was a guy who was making like $40,000 a year. And so then Gert, in the article, she makes $8,000 a year, and she's got like 20 grand in the bank. The guy that's making 40 grand a year, he's got something like $800 in the bank. He's kind of living a little bit hand to mouth. And then the other thing is that guy, Ferd, we named him. Ferd is he's needing a great deal of entertainment to anesthetize his existence.
Yeah.
Whereas Gert's living the dream. She's got her garden, she's got her community, she's living right there. The other thing is that rather than putting all of her apples in boxes and hauling them off to the store, Gert has a pickup, but she fires it up like once every 3 months, and purely for going and visiting people, offsite. And so, but people come to her place and they harvest the apples directly, and they're like, I harvested 15 boxes, and so Gert's like, all right, $10 a box.
Or
it's
they're
like,
trading.
Sure. But at the end of the year, through these kinds of trades or these kinds of sales or whatever, Gert pulls in something like $7,000 or $8,000 a year, and it ends up that she doesn't even need half of that. She's got nothing to spend. So then I define, like, okay, if I give Gert $1 million, how does her life change? And then the thing that I propose in the article is it doesn't change one speck. Nothing changes. It's exactly the same. And so then, because her life is exactly the same, is Gert therefore a permaculture millionaire? All right, so that's what I'm calling Gerting it. And then it's kind of like, part of it is like, if you're talking about trying to grow, because you watch this movie Broken Limbs and people are growing all those apples and shit, they're stressing. They borrowed money from the bank. Who do they hire? They got to hire somebody good, and it's like, because it's like, boy, it is narrow margins. Everything has to be just perfect if they're going to even be able to pay the bank back that year. So not only do they have a mortgage, but they get these loans every spring to be able to fund their operations, which they have to pay the whole loan back in the fall. And hopefully they get more money than what they paid back.
Which is what most farmers are having to do. Monocrop farmers. Yeah.
Right. And it's a gamble. And then in the last few years, there's a new thing going on too, where it's like, okay, you take your apples or your fruit or whatever it is, you take it to the warehouse, and the warehouse is going to try and sell it for you. But between the time that you drop it off and the time that they sell it, it may have sat in the warehouse for a couple of months. And now they're charging you a warehouse fee.
Yep.
So you're going to have to pay to store your food there. And there are some people where at the end of the year, they're running in the red every year,
Yep.
And they're trying to find a way to work the margins, as opposed to Gert. Gert has no stress over income at all.
Is Gert based off of a real person?
No.
And all right, so with this person, Gert, did Gert just grow up this way, or did Gert have $40,000 a year job and transition to it?
I'm intentionally leaving it vague. So I'm the author of this, which features Gert. And it's like, a lot of people keep asking these kinds of questions, and it's kind of like, it's not about how Gert, this one particular character, got there.
The reason people are asking this question, and I asked that question, is because most people are like, that sounds great. How do I do it? Where do I begin?
So I have mentioned in the Permaculture Smackdown, Ant Village, Permaculture Boot Camp, Deep Roots, and it's kind of like, because I agree. How do you do it? And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go buy some land. I'm going to lay down $100,000 for a plot of land. So I got to build a structure on it, and it's like, maybe it's 10 acres, and it's like, oh shit, I've got all these headaches that come with it, and my next door neighbors are sprayers and crap like that, and it's like, there's all these things that just make it so difficult, and you're just swimming upstream the whole time.
Mortgage, car payments.
Yeah. And so then it's kind of like with the Deep Roots package, I'm trying to set up, okay, for 20 grand, you've got an acre, and at the same time, you've got 200 acres. You want to raise cattle, you've got access to the full 200 acres. I'm going to make it freakishly cheap for you to raise your cattle.
So the big challenge for the person that's got this mortgage and car payments and stuff, they're thinking, okay, so the Deep Roots package, I'm going to I'm going to have to sell my house and my cars so that hopefully I have $20,000 to invest into this thing. Is it a for sure thing? Because that's a big sacrifice for me.
What the fuck are we talking about? On the one hand, a guy was about to part with $100,000 fucking dollars for a piece of land where he's going to be swimming upstream the whole fucking time. Now, either he's got a third down, $33,000, and is thinking like, oh, and I'm just going to fucking keep working at the same time, or I've got a deep roots plot and he can just get on it right now and use whatever the difference is. Why are we talking about, I have to sell my car? We're not comparing. It's like, one scenario, you've got a guy with maybe 50 grand and is going to buy some land. And in the other scenario, you've got some guy that's got like fucking nothing, but he's got a car he can sell. And it's like, how the fuck did that happen? That guy can't even contemplate buying $100,000 piece of property.
Yeah, they don't want $100,000. Where you're at, or where a lot of people are at that I see, mostly because I deal with middle class people, is that they bought a house, they're fucking miserable in it, they have awful neighbors, they have a big mortgage, they've got 2 cars and the house pay or the car payments, and they want to do it. They want to say, fuck this shit, I'm gonna go do something else. And they're stuck saying, how do I do this? Am I going to be able to save money to be able to do this, or what? Where do I begin? And that's the big question for a lot of people. Now, Jeff is saying in here, personally, I was completely stuck where I was until I got laid off. So a major shit happened in his life. It was like, you got to change. So there's no more exaggerating or, thinking I could just save a little more, it's going to take me 20 years and then I'll have $20,000. I can save about $1,000 a year to do this. But in Jeff's case, it was like, yeah, no more job, dude. Now what? Now what are you going to do? And that's where a lot of people are at. They haven't gotten laid off yet. They're not at the laid off part yet, but they're exaggerating, or they're going, fuck, man, shit's so bad I can barely save $1,000 a year.
Okay, yeah. So years ago, many years ago, I'm trying to think, like about 10 years ago, then I had left Mount Spokane, and I needed to go to Seattle for reasons. And it's like, okay, so I wanted to find some land in the Seattle area to work, but of course, very expensive, extremely expensive. So I found a place where they're like, we're a permaculture eco village. And I'm using the air quotes because it turns out they were using a technique of marketing called lying. And so they basically told me whatever I wanted to hear, and I came in. But all right, but at that time, here's the moral of the story is I was looking for a place to go to. And I had a little bit of money, not a hell of a lot. And I wanted to be able to have like 4 acres. I wanted 4 acres to play with. I had all these ideas, all this stuff I wanted to do. And so it's kind of like, all right, I want 4 acres. I want, but I love the idea of being part of a community. In fact, up until that point, I had done a ton of stuff in researching community. So here's a community that was like, oh, we're all about, an eco village and permaculture, and we would love to have Paul Wheaton here. And it's like, this would be great. And, so, and then later it was like, I want to put up a clothesline and put my laundry on it. Oh, no, you can't do that. And it's like, well, I want to build a hugelkultur bed because, remember, that's what we talked about the day I looked at the place. No. Everybody knows that if you're going to garden, that's a rototiller, big bunch of flat stuff. And so it's like, so I got the fuck out of there. But I wanted to go someplace where I could do my stuff, and I found another guy that was looking for something similar. He wanted a place to build a cob house. He just needed to build a cob house and live in it for like 2 years. And he was kind of like, I'll build it and then live in it for 2 years and then walk away from it. And that's, and it's like, he's thinking like, that's a really good deal for that person. So the two of us started looking together, and we never did find anything. But it was also that same guy that first told me about rocket mass heaters. And I'm kind of like, what the fuck is that? And so, long time
Life
ago.
changer.
But I kind of got to thinking like, okay, now I'm in a position that I can offer this to that guy and to other people. And I kind of feel like, all right, a person can get into a place where it's like, okay, maybe they lost their job, something in their life changed, and they wanted to go try something else. So they could come out here for a week of the boot camp, see what it's like, see if it's a fit for them, listen to the podcast, see if it's something that fits for you. And it's like, I think the thing that if people don't have a lot of experience with this, then the thing I would suggest is, do the boot camp for 2 years, and then you get the acre, you get deep roots, and then if you've got your deep roots plot and you're like, and you're working on it and you're building it, and a couple years later you're like, change my mind, want to go home, or whatever, then it's like not a problem. If it's deep roots, you can sell your plot, you can sell your improvements, and so it's like there's all kinds of deals that you could do to hit the undo button. Right. And I kind of feel like I like to think that there will be a time, probably 5 or 6 years in the future, where all the plots are gone. We've got, I don't know, 20 people, 20 plots. And so 20 people each have 1 acre, and they also simultaneously have an extra 180 acres to play with. So
and hopefully they're all growing food and sharing that food with each other. Or
you bet. You bet. I mean, the food is starting to pour out of our hugelkultur here. It takes a little bit of time, and now it's happening. But all right. So the moral of the story is that I'm a little bit surprised, a little bit pissed off that we don't have like the boot camp is full, Ant Village is full. I mean, right now we've got spaces in boot camps. I'm phrasing this poorly. We've got a lot of openings in boot camp. We've got a lot of openings up at Ant Village, and it's like I'm a little confused as to why they're available. I would think there'd be tons of people that want to do this, and they would want to come out and do it. And I also believe
it's the big leap.
But it is a big leap. It is, and at the same time, there's a lot of people that are graduating from college right now. And it's like, where are you going? What are you going to do? You went and you did your 4 years. Of course, those people probably have some loans to pay back, but some of them don't. There's also people graduating from high school right now. And so it's like, what are you going to do? And then there's a lot of people where it's like they've been working at some shit job for the last 2 years and they're sick of it and they don't have debt. That's another thing too, is we've had some people come out here that had debt. And it's kind of like, all right, I have no idea how the fuck you're going to pull this off, but you're welcome to try. And then when it doesn't work, they get pissed off at me. And I think, I think you're kind of, pissed off at yourself, but you go right ahead and be pissed off at me. I'm used to being the blame sponge. And it's like, yeah, so what did you have there? You had an acre of land. And what did you do? Not much of anything. And it's like, we had opportunities for you to work. So what did you do? Nothing.
And they had like $1,500 of debt every month, that they were supposed to be paying for this house mortgage and car payments and shit.
I can think of this one person that said to me many times, like, how am I supposed to pay this? And it's like, why are you talking to me about this? I have no fucking idea.
I'm not your financial advisor.
I didn't do that. That's not, don't stop looking at me.
Julie is getting pretty adamant about this Mr. Money mustache. How to save big money by being a badass. Have you heard of this?
I'm familiar with Mr. Money Mustache.
Is he part of the what the hell is it called? The Early Retirement Extreme group?
No.
Okay.
He is not.
I don't get it. What is it about this guy, Julia? I guess she's saying everybody should check it out. So there you go, everybody. You can go check it out if you want. I will check it out after today's show, maybe. Actually, no. I have to drive to Canada, so I will not check it out after today's show. I'm gonna go check out a big ass greenhouse. Cool, man. Well, good enough for me. I don't know. I mean, we really didn't address what these people are doing that are in debt. Like, yeah, if you go to Paul's and you're in debt, you're probably gonna be fucked.
I don't see what you're doing. We've also had some people that showed up with like they had 25 cents total in their pocket.
Yeah, which is a
And
lot of fucking people right now in America. Like most people have less than $800 in their account. Most, like, I would bet at least 65% of Americans have less than $800 in their bank.
so I think that there can be a path. If you show up here with a quarter in your pocket, there can be a path to work it out. I mean, if you're part of the boot camp, we'll feed you and time, and you will even set up some projects on the side for you so you can earn a little pocket change. And then yeah, you do your work, and in time, then you can have an ant plot or a deep roots plot. And so it's like we can do it. We can work it all out. It can all be arranged. And so it's like but then a lot of times people show up and they got a quarter in their pocket and they're like, I don't know, they desperately want to be independent. And it's like, all right, so they go directly into Ant Village, and it's like, all right, you're on your own now. You're feeding yourself. And if you want to come back to the boot camp program, you can. And they're like, no, I'm an independent person. It's like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. And then I hear that their life consists entirely of insects and whatever, you know, and it sounds like a really miserable existence. And then they have to go. So it's kind of like I'm open to the idea of people pulling it off. I'm sure that there are people that can. But I do think it's wise to show up. If you're going to do Ant Village, I think it's wise to probably have $5,000 or $6,000 in the bank to get started.
Yeah.
You know,
I was hoping what you would respond to with my question is this. If you are these lots of people where you have all this debt, you're like paying your mortgage, you're paying your car, all that shit, and you're finding that you have no money at the end of the month, every month, more than likely, you're probably spending money on things you don't need to spend money on. Like, that's probably number one thing you need to look at. Can you downsize your car? Great. Can you downsize your house? Great. But if you don't want to do all that yet, start with, do you need the fucking iPhone every year? Do you need the new iPhone every year? Like, that's a lot of these people. They're saying they're broke, bitching about it, but they're buying fucking iPhones every year, or they're buying the greatest food or whatever, or and shit that's just rotting in their fridge. They're not using it, or there's all kinds of things you're spending money on. People don't need presents for all this shit. You don't have to buy that many presents for people. Get over it. Like, you don't just say, hey, I'm too broke this year to buy presents. I got to save money. And I know every year I'm buying you these huge fucking things or tons of toys or whatever, but I can't do it anymore. I can't go spend $300 every month on camping or whatever the thing is that you're doing. More likely, you're just spending a lot of money you don't need to spend. That's number one thing you need to look at.
okay.
And I think that's what this Mustard Mustache dude is telling people.
I arrived in Missoula at the age of, like, I'm going to guess 23. And I had student loans. I had a fuck ton of student loans. I had credit card debt. I had all that stuff. And so what I did is that I moved into a place that I called the Hovel. And so I rented a room for $110 a month. And granted, it was a long time ago. They might be able to get $200 a month now. I mean, it was much less than the going rate for renting a room. And it showed it was a shithole. And but what I did is I got a job, and I lived there for more than a year. And I just paid off all my debt, lickety split. And I got
tougher, though. Like, you're not getting the new iPhone every year.
Yeah, I think I got totally debt free in about 2 years. Mm-hmm. And but I lived very, very frugally. I did not own a car. I went everywhere on bicycle. I did have a little bicycle trailer that
How
would
was your
connect to
food?
my bicycle. My food was basic. It was organic. But I mean, I remember that oats were 58, organic oats was 58 cents a pound back then. You know, sometimes I could get the stuff that was 61 cents a pound when the 58 cents a pound stuff wasn't available. So, and I remember flour, you could sometimes get organic flour for like 15 cents a pound. And so my diet consisted of a lot of oats and a lot of sourdough pancakes. Um, I also became really thin, which might surprise a lot of people. I believe at one point I was down to 185 pounds. So I was a very thin person. But I was, and then I was also, you know, everywhere I went to work and back every day on my bicycle in Missoula in the winter with ice on the ground. I actually kind of invented my own snow tires, studded snow tires. I took tires and I took stainless steel screws. I drilled them from the inside to the outside. And then I put a tire protector on top of that. And now I had studded snow tires to get to work. In the warmer seasons, I played soccer 5 days a week. But anyway, lots more stories down there. But the big thing is that I got out of debt, and
That's number one. Uno
that's
number one.
yeah. Suddenly, you've got the flexibility to do all kinds of things once you're out of debt. But there's a more story that goes beyond that. But you know, that's good enough for now, and that's what I basically would suggest to people. Once you've eliminated debt, you're free. Now, I gotta say that we're trying to do all these projects here. We've got so many things we're trying to do, and I really want people to come here who are a fit. I don't want people to come here that are like, oh yeah, I want a place like that, but I want something that's totally different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over there, and then I'm going to tell you how you have to change everything now. And it's like, that doesn't work. Don't come here. Please don't come here. Come here if it's a fit for you. Yeah. And so it's like, if you are a non-smoker and for whatever reason you're all done with weed, you know, then and then you've listened to all this stuff, all the podcasts, and you're like, no, this is something I could work with. This is something where I would fit. And it's like, all right, you know. Now, I had some people saying something like, why the fuck should I come and do all that stuff? And you're just going to get rich off of my labor. And it's like, yeah, then don't fucking come here. All right. Because what the fuck am I going to do with all the things that you did? I mean, really, what would be smart for me to do is to downsize down to just, 5 or 10 acres and do my own thing on 5 to 10 acres, not be on the Permaculture Smackdown, not do all these other projects, and definitely not try to host people who are coming out here. Because the other thing is like when somebody comes to the boot camp, we have calculated that for all the work that they do, it would be far cheaper to hire a professional to come and do it. And then we pay them when the job is done and done well.
But then you're not helping people.
But we're not building community, and we're not helping. And I kind of feel like Bill Mollison says that permaculture is about replacing petroleum with people. And it's like, and people come with such a fucking drama package. And so we're trying to find a way to turn the volume knob way down on drama. And I think most of the time we've really succeeded at that. And we have had instances where it's like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And it's like, then it leaves and goes. And then we, try again.
Julie is posting step 1, eliminate debt. Step 2, okay, that step 2, boot camp for free. I think there are, when you say step 1, eliminate debt, here would be my recommendation. Step 1, eliminate debt. Yes. And in that step to do that, that's where the key is, because that's what's hard for people, is to eliminate the debt. And like Paul's saying, live frugal. You don't need all of the shit that you think you need. And yeah, you're going to be miserable for a little bit, but you're going to be much happier in the long run and free. the feeling of freedom is so key to every human being. You need to feel free. And when you're in debt, you are a slave. You feel like you're enslaved to that debt. And you're going to be miserable, depressed. And then you're going to start spending money on shit you don't need. You're going to start buying pills. You're going to start buying a lot of TV shows or just sitting around watching TV. And because you're fucking depressed, because you're in debt. So that's a big problem. Jeff says, I bought video games. There you go. Now, that's a lot of people buying video games.
The book Early Retirement Extreme really helps to spell it out.
And you recommended that to me, and it made a big impact on me. I did. I got rid of all shit I never even thought of. I'm like, you're right. I don't need like a fancy kitchen pot or whatever. Like, I don't need that shit in my life. I'll just get rid of it. And I sold it all. And it was just like, I don't need this TV. I don't need all this shit. I can totally read a book. I would be perfectly happy. I can, and now all of a sudden, holy shit, I have a lot of time. I could go start a company. Like, and that's what it came down to, is like, oh, I have a shitload of time. And then now I have no time because I've spent all of that time doing awesome shit, which I hope is helping people and people are enjoying. But yeah, but now I am free, and it feels awesome. It feels way better than owing money to people.
I am trying to build permaculture Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to demonstrate all kinds of stuff. Now, granted, there's probably 100 properties across the United States that say the exact same thing. And of course, I kind of believe that there's a bunch of stuff that I want to do that's different from those. At the same time, I've been to a lot of those sites, and I think we're already ahead of 95% of those sites, and it's only been 5 years. And so I kind of feel like we already have a pretty strong forward velocity, and we've got so much more to do. Right now, Allerton Abbey is getting a bunch of work done. And maybe this will be the winter where we finally demonstrate annualized thermal inertia and how well it does or does not work. I mean, there's just so many other projects going on. I mean, junk pole fence, I think, is a big one. Berm shed stuff is a big one. All the rocket mass heater stuff we have going on here. So many different bits and bobs of things that are not going on at other properties. And it's like, I'm going to just say, I wish that the boot camp program was full and there was a waiting list. I wish that the Ant Village project was full and there was a waiting list. I wish that we had 3 more Deep Roots people. I wish. These are the things that I wish for. It's okay to wish for shit. I wish that all of the stuff that I've already created started selling 20 times more than it already is, so we'd have coin for so many more projects and to accelerate all of our stuff. And that's another thing too, is you were talking about how do you get out of debt, and I gotta say, like, I wish people would exercise the 50% affiliate fee that we have for all of this stuff. Not only make me a lot of money, but make yourself a lot of money. Yep. But the bizarre thing is it's like hardly anybody does it. And I see people with media like, oh, here they did a big YouTube video about a rocket mass heater. No links to this stuff, no mention. And it's like, 50% affiliate fee is quite a lot.
All you have to do is put a link in. And that was my next point I was getting to, is with the job thing, is or with all this money you're spending. Once you start evaluating all the money you're spending on shit, because you really don't think about it day to day, but once you really start evaluating getting rid of shit, you'll find like, holy shit, I'm paying this much in gas every month and insurance. Like just the automobile alone, if you could spend or if you took an online job, like just started doing an online job that did not make as much as you made, you might find that online job does make as much as you did make, because now you're not having to spend money on all this extra shit that you would otherwise have to be traveling. All the coffee you're getting in the morning every day, you go to work, you stop by Starbucks or whatever, you're spending a fuckload of money that you don't think about, and you could be using all that money to pay off debt, to get yourself advanced quicker. And Lee says, you don't seem to really aware that usury is the modern form of slavery. I don't know what that means. I think the modern form of slavery is taxation, but whatever. Uh, anyway, there's a lot of ways you can change your life, and doing the online business, if you can start an online business, that's a huge step forward, because you're going to reduce spending a lot. Get Try and get an online business, even if it's starting the online business while you are working, so that you can eventually get there. That's a big help. Start planting some food, even if it's just garden stuff, like, or just a herb kitchen garden kind of thing, small herbs for the kitchen kind of garden, just little things. It all starts adding up, and you can start paying off your debt, and then you can start doing things like looking at, hey, holy shit, I paid off the debt, and now I have this money. I have an online job. I could go to Paul's totally and try it out. Things like that. So that's
It does seem like a possible strategy would be like, okay, I need to become agile. I need to get everything I own to fit into a backpack.
yeah.
And so I need to be moving towards getting out of debt and becoming liquid, becoming portable. And it's like, there might be other places around and everything. And I don't know, I kind of like to think, I mean, I've got enough people watching my videos, enough people watching my podcasts and reading my articles and things like that. I kind of feel like, and we've had 500 people come through here. And I kind of feel like we need another 500 people to come through. Maybe we can get 4 of those to stick. By the way, we've also got jobs here. I mean, and it's a job where, you earn your own income. Like right now, if you come and you manage rentals and set up events, then for the rentals, you get 80%. You get an 80% cut of the rental income for the next few months. And so it's kind of like, and we need an education manager. I really want to get the PEP 1, PEP 2 program going. And then I'd like to have the idea of a full-time natural builder here who's going to flip the structures. I believe that if we had a full wafadi here with a fence around it and gardens on it, that a person could sell that for 20 grand. And so then we'd have people be like, okay, I want to buy that, that plot with the improvements. And
yeah. So I just turnkey, move in, start living life.
So these are things I'd like to see here, as well as a full-time videographer. I think that there's so many video projects to be done here. We're about to start a Kickstarter, and it's like, it would be great if we had ways to accelerate that project. It's like we keep getting delay after delay after delay, but if we had a full-time videographer, I think that would eliminate the delays. And we could start cranking out, a few Kickstarters a year, just for video stuff. I think that the demand is strong for that kind of stuff. I mean, I do a Kickstarter and I usually get $70,000 to $100,000 per Kickstarter. And so it's kind of like, I think a videographer would do well here. So there you go. I wish for dramatic acceleration of my projects. And I'm still working on getting there, but
if you got an idea, reach out to Paul, pitch it to him, and see what happens. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed today's Smackdown. I told you veer off from tariffs. I hope you enjoy. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us get those numbers up. I'm starting to use YouTube now, so that's been interesting trying to do that. But I appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out with us today. We'll see you next week.
Bye. We forgot to mention the whole after show thing.
Okay, we're still live streaming if you want. We have an after show. I was just shutting
yeah.
For those, we have an after show if you guys want. We're not done. For the people that are supporters of Paul Wheaton's Patreon or a member of Thrive Through, a student of mine, you get access to this special little chat area where we hang out before and after the show and just chat about whatever they want to talk about. So there you go. We mentioned it. All right. See you next week.